Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from Solo Games, and today we're going to talk about how crazy stupid WOTC is. I've made some videos about WOTC has gone completely insane, but I think now we can confirm that yes, absolutely, everybody inside is insane. Maybe they fired all the good people. I don't know what's happening. So this OGL madness is this drama is just like, I don't know, it's drama that's refusing to die, right? So let's first understand what happened, catching everybody up. So the OGL stands for Open Gaming License. Basically, it's D&D's way of saying, hey, if you're a creator for D&D, because D&D is a very flexible system, RPG system, that allows a lot of creators to go build their own modules and maps and characters, creative stories, everything. So that allows D&D to be more accessible for everyone because you can essentially build campaigns around anything you like. Well, the problem is Wizard says that's all cool and great when you're building the community and turning Dungeons & Dragons into this great game, right? But once we have all the players, we need to start monetizing them because the OGL makes the creators rich, but Wizard doesn't get any of that. Which, by the way, that's not really true because they can still sell the basic rules, the manuals, D&D Beyond. There's so many other ways, but Wizard wants more money, of course. January 5th, Gizmodo breaks the story on the leaked document of OGL 1.1. Now, inside the document, there are three things that are pretty vicious. Number one, if you're making more than $750K a year on content for D&D, you have to kind of pay Wizard a certain percent of that. I think the number they were throwing around was around 25%, which is, it kind of makes sense, right? It's not a ridiculous number for this type of thing. The whole idea is ridiculous. But again, if you're just going to charge for it, 25% is pretty common. Like that's what app developers have to pay to Apple, etc. Right? Second piece is for anyone who's making more than 50K, you have to report your earnings. Basically, the idea is kind of like an auditing thing. You have to make sure that you tell them, hey, I'm making this much money, and you can't lie about it because, but it's kind of like stupid because what is your incentive for doing this other than if you don't do it? It's like a punishment, right? So there's no incentive for doing it, but rather you get punished if you don't. And then lastly, any content creator, that includes just people, I guess, who are making YouTube videos. I don't know how extensive that becomes, but any content creator, at least for the modules, for those kind of pieces, you have to report, you have to register your content with Wizards. Meaning there's official, here's where you put all the stuff in there. You say what kind of content you're making. And then of course, last part is any content that's made by anyone that's now Wizards kind of IP. And that's crazy. That just means that you no longer own your own work. Wizard does instead because it's their game. And so, because you build it on top of their system, so they own your IP. Of course, right after this happens, there's huge fan backlash around this whole thing. YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, you can name it, the whole gamut goes to war against Wizard. It's pretty obvious, right? This totally makes sense. Wizard's not doing great. 2022 was a terrible year for them, especially with respect to Magic, Amazon dumps, and 30th anniversary, all the crap they've been doing, garbage jump starts. And of course, people were like, look, how bad can it get? Of course, they're taking their foot off the gas on Magic, and now they're going, freaking balls deep to Dungeons & Dragons, right? All gas, no brakes on Dungeons & Dragons monetization. So of course, fans get super angry. You see all this leaked document reporting on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, all this stuff. That really promotes them in the algorithms, which then brings the story more and more front center for a lot of people. So of course, throughout this whole backlash period, right, about a week or so, WOTC remains silent. They don't really want to talk anything about it because then they know anything they say or do will probably get them in trouble. So they kind of want to stay silent, just back off and stay there. I think the strategy is actually sound. I think honestly, as a company, if you're going to do something shady like this anyways, and super shitty to your fans, you should not comment on it. Never break character. I'm telling you guys, this is how you do it. You never break character. You don't comment on shit like this. You just let it go. Just keep going forward, and then eventually they'll have to take it. But of course, January 12th, some WOTC employee breaks silence, and this is where it gets really juicy, right? It could be the 11th or 12th, is around that time. Anyways, some WOTC employee DMs a Twitter user DND Shorts and sends a message, private message, direct message that basically says, subscription or basically bottom line for Wizards is the only thing that matters. The employees are kept in the dark about any of the changes management makes. In fact, the DDB team, the Dungeons & Dragons Beyond team, which is kind of like the extended content of D&D website, that team who's supposed to bring OGL 1.1 to the public were only told to do this like weeks before they actually have to go live with it. So there was no preparation, no discussion. This team didn't have a choice in the monetization they were going to throw at them. They were just saying, hey, deliver the bad news. Of course, the community, and noted in there too, was this comment about the community. So the management thinks that community is are obstacles between them and their money. Yeah. So of course this then, I mean, look, you got boiling pots and everyone's already super angry. Of course, this just blows the lid off everything. Everyone goes crazy. But the key point, and this is really what's important in that leak, is that employee did mention the only thing they do care about though, right? They don't care about how angry you are. They don't care about all this other stuff. They are going to delay the OGL release, but only because fans are kind of angry. But what they're doing is they don't care about your comments or thumb ups and upvotes on Reddit. What they care about is bottom line, subscription. So of course, reading this, a bunch of people, including of course the OP D&D shorts, decided to unsub. Now, whether they're actually doing it or they're just saying it publicly, who knows? But I assume, and I think anybody who read this thing, who cares enough and are angry, which is a lot of them, probably did do that. Because it was so bad that the website actually went down. So Dungeons & Dragons Beyond, DDB, is kind of like the affiliate website to D&D. It was actually purchased by Dungeons & Dragons, aka WOTC. And basically it's their like content delivery website. So you can buy a lot of like extra content, add-ons, etc. Now, they have a subscription plan there where you can subscribe, you can access the digital versions of their manuals, books, guidebooks, rule books, things like that, character sheets, etc. Of course, the server actually temporarily got shut down. Now, of course, there's speculations whether WOTC did it because they didn't want people to unsub anymore, or maybe there's so many people visiting the website and unsubscribing that it actually crashed the servers. We have no clue. But what is obvious is that whatever happened, whether there was just too many people unsubbing or again, they're trying to prevent it from happening, did give a good hint to WOTC, which then resulted in today, the day that OGL is supposed to release, WOTC actually breaks their silence and makes a message on DBB. Now, the message is super snarky, basically noting, I won't read you the whole message here, but you can see, I'll just highlight this part for you. A couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today because we need to make sure we get it right, but it is coming. So yeah, we're gonna fuck with you, right? Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us into changing our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won and so did we. Our plan was always to solicit input from our community before any updates to the OGL. The drafts you've seen were attempting to do just that. Now, anybody who's reading this message probably understands why this is a super snarky comment. First of all, what is this comment about? We both won. In some ways, that's kind of saying, no, we both lost. Meaning, yes, of course we lost because we got caught, right? We got caught that we're making this sneaky change and people don't like it. But you lost too because guess what? We're still going to shove it down your throat. Remember, earlier comment, it's still coming. The second part that's super snarky is they mention this draft you've seen is a way to communicate and get solicit feedback. How did you solicit feedback with a leaked document? You weren't going to show this to people anyways. You were just going to, originally, if this never had been leaked, if the employee never spoke out, what was supposed to happen today on the 13th was this document was supposed to go live. And that's it. The moment, look, companies don't publish these things and then go back on their word on it. Okay? So the fact that this never got officially published is a big win for the community. But understand this. First of all, OGL's coming. Their greedy, money-grabbing ways is coming. There's no way to prevent it. They're just going to do it. Nothing you say, do, think will change that. Now, you unsubscribing apparently does work. but it's still going to come. And here's the thing. Wizard may say, look, we're just going to take a short-term loss, get a bunch of people angry, whatever. But long-term, you have new players coming in. They're still going to go subscribe and, follow along with this OGL rule set that we were pushing through, right? So maybe they don't even care, right? And that's what's really happening here. So let's kind of like dive down a little bit deeper into this whole thing. First of all, what's going on with the PR department, Wizard, man? Like, do they not know how to handle this thing? Look, all this backlash, all this mass unsubscribing, dude, push on. Just like you did with 30th anniversary, still go to the sales. And then market sold out, who cares, right? Never break character. Because the more you say, the more you're gonna stick your foot in your mouth. Why are you even talking? Did any of this response ever go through their PR department, their copywriters, to say, hey, like, maybe we don't say that line? Because it's super weird to say, like, I mean, you could just be like, hey guys, like, man, we originally were gonna do this thing, and wow, we didn't know you guys are so passionate about D&D. We love the game, you love the game. Guess what? We're gonna take this document back. We're just gonna kind of sit on it and really think through it. We're gonna work with our creators, and then you could just say all the shit. You don't have to do any of it. And a lot of companies don't. They just say nice things, and then guess what? In a month, who's checking in on them? Are you gonna go to Critical Role and say, hey, did they ever contact you to, talk about OGL 1.2? No, no one's gonna ask for this. You didn't have to make a comment where you're coming out and like attacking the community, right? I feel like they fired everybody who's good at the PR department. There's nobody left. All you got is a bunch of these keyboard warriors who are like, oh, it's all us against them. And they're publicly writing this on their website is what I'm seeing. We now know what WOTC really cares about. It's their bottom line. Every single time they open their mouth, every single time they make a comment, it's about bottom line, separating their, community fans from their money, how like the bottom lines can be hurt, subscriber count. That's all they care about. Because again, the management they hired are no longer gamers who care or love the game. Garfield doesn't run the company. Garfield's been long gone. They couldn't even get Garfield to go to Magic 30. I heard he like phoned it in with a little webcam or something, right? The people who are running this company are business people. All they see is numbers. I bet you like whoever that lady is who's running WOTC, she doesn't even know how to play Magic. I bet you she doesn't understand what D&D is. All she sees is money. We're just dollar signs to her. Money bags, right? How much money can I steal from Mark is what she thinks. How much money bags can I dump on Amazon so Mark will buy it? Basically is what they're saying, right? And here's the thing, like, but at the same time, that's great. Because that's giving us a lot of data on how do we actually affect change, hit their bottom line. Look, the problem with Magic side, right? And so like, this is where I love D&D side. It's amazing because, you guys get angry. So first of all, bravo to you guys. You guys did win. No, you didn't like half win. You 100% won. Here's the problem. You're going to have to keep winning. This is like, remember like when Congress was pushing that like stupid privacy thing and they got so many people mad and we started doing all this online petition stuff and it did stop it. But then they tried to do that same shit again in a year. You guys got to keep vigilant and keep doing this shit over and over again. Watch when they do sneaky shit like this and just keep fighting back. But here's the thing, right? You guys did win because you unsubscribing gave them instantaneous data. Just like when the Magic folks did not buy Magic 30, they pulled the sale. They didn't let it run. That's huge. I mean, that's victory. I don't care what they say. The problem with Magic side is mostly we can't give feedback fast enough. Because print run numbers and all their like sales data doesn't hit them for like a couple months or maybe even half a year. So they have no clue how the sales are doing until the restock orders come in, right? Because they print, let's say, whatever, 100,000 boxes, 300, 500,000 boxes, and they sell them to distributors. They send it to the, distributors send it through the network. But then on that reorder, the restock on second print wave, they start seeing numbers and say, hey, like, how did it sell through? If the orders come in again, same as before, super strong, that means it's selling very well. So they have all this data. But the problem is that is a couple months in the future. So us retaliating doesn't change anything until much, much later. And even then, sometimes they, like cover their ears and they refuse to listen. I mean, this is partially why like Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow didn't get discounted for like months, almost a year later it got discounted. And the reason is not because like, they didn't think, they just didn't have the data yet. They didn't have the sales data. They didn't really understand, like, is it actually not selling through? And so, of course, towards them, they realized no one's ordering this. Distributors don't want it. Players don't want it. Stores don't want it. So, of course, they went to Amazon and dumped it. That's exactly what happened. So if I put it in this analogy, it's kind of like this. If you're like driving on a highway and there's like an accident 2 miles ahead, you're not going to slow down immediately. You're going to keep driving, probably full speed, until you hit, all the other cars kind of like start piling up. And that's when it hits you, right? So you won't actually understand that there's a problem and be able to, I don't know, do anything, or in WOTC's case, don't do anything until much, much later. This is what happens on the Magic side often. Now, with MTGO and Arena, it's, easier to see that data, but the problem with that is a lot of players are pretty dedicated. This is the problem. Like, for players to stop, I don't know, spending on MTGO or Arena is really difficult because their account has their entire deck. All their decks, all their cards are there. They can't just abandon it. Like, it doesn't work the same as like not subscribing to D&D. This is the problem. Because a lot of D&D players, their game is so flexible, fluid, and like dynamic anyways that, they could just use a totally different system. It's like, okay, look, I just don't have to reference WOTC made characters, make my own characters, and they're fine. They just move on. The other part that's like really brain dead about WOTC's response is I feel like in the last month or so, WOTC has failed to understand how fast information moves. Back in 1998, I'm sure it's fine if you go to an investor call and just be like, oh yeah, we're gonna fuck our customers, because the harder we fuck them, the more money we get, right? You probably could say that and nobody would really care or even hear about it, right? The problem is now we live in the internet age. The moment a comment like that happens, and then it gets sent out into all the little, social media threads, and then it gets upvoted, and then they kind of like the content regurgitates itself. It's a snowball effect. It's huge. There's nothing, you can't hide this stuff anymore. You can't just be going out there saying stuff and then hoping no one hears it. You can't hide it. If you're gonna make it public, it's gonna be very public. And if it's negative, everyone's gonna analyze the shit out of it. So I don't know why in 2023, they're still acting like it's 1998 and like people don't understand what the internet is, and half the time to get online, you still have to use dial-up. Okay, last point. Why are they doing this? How have we gotten here? What's the purpose? What's the end game for WOTC? My read on this stuff, I kind of feel like there's a pump and dump coming. I think a lot of these execs may be kind of done with what they're doing. Maybe they're tired of being execs. Maybe they just want to make the numbers look really good and sell all their stocks and exit. Because at this point, like for them, I mean, look, if you actually care for a company, you care about what you're building, you're going to put a lot of things into it, and you would never, ever destroy your brand. When you start destroying your brand, when you start not caring anymore, this is almost like positioning a sell, right? Because you could just milk it for all it's worth and then sell it to someone, because it's not going to be worth that much anyways. Get as much money as you can and run. And again, chuck the grenade, chuck the hot potatoes to someone else and let them deal with it. I don't know. So part of it is maybe this is like positioning themselves to sell to Amazon or some other big box vendors. Maybe they're positioning to potentially just for the execs to exit and then promote some other schmuck to be the fall guy. Although, as I say this, I mean, I already know this is what happens on Wall Street all the time. I used to work in that field, right? And the reality is, like, everyone's looking for short term. Very few people will reward you for long term, because long term doesn't make money, man. I don't care that you can predict an accident 2 miles in the future. I care that you drive as fast as you can now, because I need you to get as many miles as possible. And I don't care if you get an accident later, especially if I'm not driving anymore. Look, if the car crashes and I'm not the person driving, who cares? And that's a lot of that mentality within the Wall Street, within like the investment side of things. And honestly, that's what these execs are trained to do. What they can do and deliver for their investors is short-term profits, but maybe long-term the company's going nowhere, who cares? And there's always some fall guy who's going to come in and pick up the pieces, right? So you go as high as possible, sell the thing, let it dip, let the next guy pick it up, do another U-turn. And the people who suffer are the people on the outside. Your players who are basically the animals, cash cows being farmed. We're being farmed by WOTC, of course. You go out there, you buy their boxes. That's what you're doing. You go and like subscribe to DND D&D Beyond, that's what you're doing. You're being farmed. When your numbers, when your subscription, when your payment for those boost boxes all aggregate up to the top of their top line revenue, they can say, hey, look, we're doing really well. More investors come. They all buy in the stock. The execs exit their positions, and then everyone's happy. Except you as the player. That's who suffers. All right, man. That's it.